Hyvää huomenta. Good morning. I'm happy to be here. My name is Dominik, and right now I'm actually an associate professor. I just leveled up, so I'm not an assistant professor anymore. And very happy to be here. Today I will be speaking about AI, as you already heard. I will be looking a bit at the positive sides, but I will also be looking at a bit more of the dark side, or what it does to us, how it changes our behavior, and what can we do about that. And this is all mainly based on my research, so in studies that I've been conducting in my lab with my doctoral students and other researchers. And yeah, it is focusing on the way we interact. But I want to start with a short thought starter. I really like to do that also in my lectures, just to keep your brain waves flowing, with a few questions and a picture nicely provided by one of our most popular large language models, ChatGPT. This is just an analogy. I have a few more examples that I will present during my presentation, but this is something I want you to think about. Here you can see three scenarios, three pictures over the course of time. Of course, they are artificially created, but you can see humans, us, doing some effort, building some pyramids, or building some constructions and buildings as we can see it nowadays, but also some potential futures that we might see, where we can see different kinds of autonomous systems that will be doing the work for us. And what I want you to think about is, if you can imagine these people, who of those do you think have a bit more feeling of ownership about their outcome, what they have produced, or also pride, who can identify more with the final outcome? The people who build the pyramid, or the construction workers, or the construction planners of the building, or maybe in the future someone who is orchestrating AI agents. And what do you think is more impressive, looking back or looking at these pictures? What do you think is more work that went into that? And also, one thing that is being addressed in this presentation is, who do you think developed more during the course of that work, who maybe struggled a bit more, who developed, of course, physically, but also mentally, who knows more at the end, who put more effort into building of that? And then final question, which is something I deal a lot, or which is maybe a bit of the summary of that presentation. What do you think are the tools, or are the systems involved into these constructions? When you look at the lock that was helping to move the big rock, is this a tool? It's of course quite obviously a tool, but if you think about the cranes in the middle, if you think about the autonomous systems, the AI, the drones that are flying around, are they more like a teammate, or are they still tools in the work we are doing? And these are some questions I want to address in that presentation. But first, I want to show a bit about the hype, or the productivity. Yes, it is real, and I think we all know that. I brought a few headlines here from some studies, not from my lab, but from other universities, really showing, okay, we have a very big increase in productivity, 15%, one study found, with multiple thousand of blue-collar workers. We even have an increase in quality, depending how this is viewed, and we speed up our work. I have to say, and I have to be honest here, this presentation took me not as long as it might have been taken me 5 or 10 years ago, because I had these nice LLM systems that were creating these depictive pictures that I like to use to show specific concepts. Faster, we are all faster, and we see that also in the number of publications in our research, but we also see that in many, many other domains. So this is something, of course, which we have to acknowledge, but there's always a second side to the coin. There's always something happening to us and something happening to ourselves when we work with AI. And this is something that I'm actively researching. And one of the things that we have found out is a concept called social loafing. And the interesting thing about social loafing is that we know this already. And we know this from the 50s and from the 60s because it has been shown in human research. But what is that? We have seen that people reduce their effort. And we have seen that nowadays that people reduce their effort when they work with AI. They are social loafing. And social loafing is the psychological tendency of individuals to exert less effort when they work with someone or something than when they are working alone. And this can have multiple reasons, which we have seen in human research. But now we can also see this in human AI research and in human AI collaboration. And that's the interesting thing here. And this is mainly due to the nature and the kind of AI and to the way we treat AI and the way we see AI. There comes the analogy from the lock to the crane to the AI system. So there is a change in what we consider a tool. And here just a quick overview of why we social love. And this has multiple reasons. Some of them are a bit more pronounced, some of them are less pronounced. And one thing is, for example, if there are two dominant team members or two knowledgeable team members sometimes, but mainly two dominant team members. If you have a group of 5 people and one person, maybe a superior, is contributing a lot of ideas, you are believing that your contribution is not crucial. And we also see that with AI partially, especially when very powerful AI is used or when AI is perceived as very powerful, then people hold back their ideas, people hold back their decisions or their input because they don't need to do anything anymore. On the other side, this also leads to over-reliance. So people over-rely on AI because they are like leaning back, as in the previous picture, and thinking, okay, let's AI do it. AI can maybe do it anyway. You feel less accountable of producing and contributing to that team. And a third aspect is that you don't necessarily identify with the final product anymore. You might have noticed that, or you might have seen that when you hand in something and your superior is asking you, hey, did you do that or did you use some AI? There are some mechanisms and there are some communication patterns where you don't identify with the final product anymore. And we know this from team research. When you do something alone, you are like, hey, this has been done by me. This is solely mine. You identify more, you put more effort into it. And with AI, this changes. And we also research another thing, which is much more personal, which is very much related to your personal development when using AI. So another individual concept that changes. And we call this development bypass because we have seen that AI writing assistants, especially all these large language models are writing, all of them are improving our productivity, and to be honest, they have been improving my language and my writing. I'm not a native English speaker, so my initial papers and my writings, they have flaws. And I use large language models to touch them up, to make the writing a bit better. But I know that thinking about my first papers, this takes away a bit of the struggle. This takes away of really getting to the finish line and polishing the paper or the articles and the text I produce by myself. And this is something that we see influences your identity as a writer, but it also influences your development because you don't struggle anymore. And you might see that also when you develop, when you code. When you used to do everything by yourself. And then at some point we had these nice IDEs that helped us a bit, and then we started to have code completion, our syntax got better, we didn't make that many mistakes anymore, and now we have full-fledged large language models who are programming for us. And this is a spectrum, of course, but this is something that prevents us from struggling and maybe from becoming better programmers and better developers. So this is something that also influences us as quite much. But the interesting thing, and that is something that we found out in our research, is back to that analogy, the way we see AI and the nature and kind of AI, because this also influences how we research AI. And in our research, we call that sometimes liminality of AI. Liminality means that there is some kind of transitional, sometimes uncomfortable, uncertain in between state which occurs when something is moving from one stage to another. And this is quite interesting because it allows us to study AI differently than we studied other tools, because AI is in this transitioning phase. And I'm an advocate, I'm also someone who is saying we need to treat AI not as a tool, but more as a co-equal partner, as someone who's actively contributing to value creation, because that has been also shown in different kinds of research that AI is a social actor. And it enables us to study AI using theories and knowledge that we have from human-human collaboration. Because we are holding our ideas back if we have a very dominant communication partner or collaboration partner, because of many reasons. And we can transfer this knowledge also to artificial intelligence, because we perceive AI quite a lot like a collaboration partner. And yeah, this is this image that I depicted here, maybe not the perfect fitting, but you can see the movement or the change of specific tools from a hand saw to a band saw and then to completely autonomous saws. Of course, there are other concepts involved into that. Augmentation or automation, if you completely automate something and are not involved in that value creation anymore. These are also concepts that involve, but in concrete or in summary, what I want to say here is that we can study AI, and we study AI much more nowadays with theories and concepts from co-equal partners, from humans, than we study them from a tool perspective. But yeah, we are not doomed, and this is a bit of an outlook or something that I really like to focus on as well. Sometimes we can learn a lot from fiction, because this liminality will to some extent vanish. AI will become better, and now we see also a big rise of embodied artificial intelligence like robots, and at some point we will see these very autonomous, very social actors like R2D2 or Data smoking a pipe, and this is something that then also affects how we live with artificial intelligence and how we work and collaborate with artificial intelligence. And one aspect that I did not mention here necessarily that contributes to that quite a lot is, of course, the appearance of artificial intelligence. When you are coding with your Copilot, you don't necessarily have an embodied AI, you don't have a name. Copilot and also ChatGPT, OpenAI did very purposely not anthropomorphize their AI, because they knew that anthropomorphic cues have a specific effect. I know that many people call their ChatGPT chatty or something. This is the way we like to do that, and that then triggers these mechanisms. That then starts to make us feel, okay, this is a social actor. Some social behavior, some social responses are happening inside of me, because this is how I react to the AI. And that's the interesting thing. And that is why we study AI with theories and concepts from human-human interaction. And it will lead to some extent, of course, it also depends on how these systems are designed, but this will lead to the fact that we treat AI as social actors. And yes, I would like to come back to that initial picture, that I had at the beginning. This time I was changing it a bit because, yeah, I used the analogy to to programming and to coding, and I like to do that because my dad works in construction, and whenever he explains how many problems can appear in construction, how difficult construction is, and then he asks, hey, can you just not very simply create this software? I have to tell him that software engineering is at least has the same complexity as construction. This is why I like to use the example of construction as well. But here you can see the change in programming or in software engineering from people who used analog cards to program to something in the middle, which, yeah, I usually refer now, and this is the way I learned programming when I talk to my students, that we had some IDE and that we started to have code completion up to fully autonomous systems that code now agentic AI that is testing software, that is sending unit tests back and forth, debugging software, so something where the human is merely orchestrating. And this again raises these questions that I always like to ask, like who do you think feels more ownership of their software? When NASA was developing the software for the first moon landing, these were tiny pieces of software, much less lines of code, but I think the engineers felt really proud and a lot of ownership about the software. Same as when I developed something, I felt a lot of yeah, ownership and pride about what I developed. And I struggled. But I still, and this is something I can tell you, I still struggle and feel ownership about software that I'm vibe coding right now. So giving you a quick example, I'm vibe coding this vocabulary app because I'm learning Finnish and I'm using Duolingo quite a lot, but omistaan 8 sinistä undulaati is something I don't want to always learn. Something that Duolingo really likes to repeat over and over. So I'm vibe coding that vocabulary software right now, and I'm feeling very proud about it, even though I did not develop any line of code. But at the end, it is about the outcome, and it is also a bit about the struggle, which is now shifted a bit, but and the effort that is changing. But here, what I really want to tell you is that it's important to rethink and be aware of these concepts. What is the role is something that will be changing quite a lot, and will we still be struggling? This is something, of course, which is highly debated because we don't want to struggle. We don't want to, we want it easy. We want to have a solution with very little struggle. But at the end, struggle is what develops us, what makes us learn, what makes us better. So it is always good to struggle. And it is always good to learn from these concepts. If it's the simple coding, that might be different. But it is a change. And this is my final slide, just summarizing that and answering that question that I posed at the beginning. Is more AI bringing us, making us better? Of course, it doesn't, because always more was never good. There's always a trade-off, there's always a flip side, and we have to be very aware of that. We have to conscious about what tools we are using. Have to be conscious with who we are working with, if it's a human or if it's an AI, and this is something that we just have to be reflective and consider. And yeah, with these words, I would like to close this presentation. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to connect and yeah, talk about my research and your experience. Thank you.